is time for another tag video, and again, I have not been tagged in this video, but it sounded like a really fun one, and this is the opposite book tag. Now, I'm pretty sure that this was first created by a Portuguese booktuber, and so I will leave the link to that original video down below, but I've been watching quite a few of these recently and it just sounds like a really fun tag, so I thought I would do it. Let's get on with it, why don't we? The first book in your collection and the last book that you bought. Finding the first book in my collection was rather hard, but I think I found the one that I've probably had for the longest period of time. And that is Disney's Classic Treasury Volume 1. I remember flicking through these pages all the time, constantly going through this book and just enjoying the Disney stories in book form. So yeah, this is probably the oldest one, and it is like falling apart as well. The spine is actually coming apart and everything, and it's a little fragile, but it's glorious. At the time that I filmed this one, I have bought a book, but it hasn't arrived yet in the mail. When you're seeing this, it may have arrived, who knows. But at this point, the book that I recently bought and do have in my possession is Unearthly by Cynthia Hand. I got this sometime during January, and I love these covers so much. I really like the Australian covers for these, so I cannot wait to get started on this one. Yes. A cheap book and an expensive book. I have The Card Turner by Louis Sachar. I'm not entirely sure how to pronounce that one, but this is a hardcover book retailing for $25, and I got it for $2. I bought this in Australia as well, which is just kind of mind-blowing, finding really cheap hardcover books. So yeah, this is probably one of the cheapest books that I've found. For my most expensive, I'd have to say it is the Harry Potter Page to Screen. I personally did not buy this. I got this for a present for Christmas a couple of years ago, but I'm pretty sure that this retails for about $75. So yeah, pretty pricey, but it's so awesome. A book with a male protagonist and one with a female protagonist. I went with The Invention of Hugo Cabret by Brian Selznick. The male protagonist in this one is Hugo Cabret, obviously. And I really adored this book. It was amazing, so much fun. For my female, I chose Bloodsong by Rhiannon Hart. The female protagonist in this one is Zarafina. She's a princess, she's pretty badass, really good with a bow and arrow, and she craves blood, but she's not a vampire. A book that you read fast and one that took you a long time to read. So for this one, I've got a bit of an interesting answer. Back in 2008 it was, I was going on a plane trip over to London, and the entire trip from leaving from Sydney to landing in London, including flights and waiting in Singapore for a few hours, it took about 24 hours. So I spent pretty much the entire time reading. So in one sitting, I read 2 books. And that is Twilight and New Moon by Stephanie Meyer. I just absolutely flew through these books. I read these non-stop. I read both of these books in that period, and then I finished it and I didn't have any more books with me, so I was kind of like, maybe it's time for me to sleep now. For a book that took me the longest period of time to read it, I'm not really including books that I put down to pick up another book for. It was more I'm focusing on this book only, wasn't reading anything else, and just took me forever. And that was Beauty Queens by Liva Bray. I think this took me about a month, maybe a little more, possibly 2, I can't really remember, but I know that it took me a really long time to read this one. Kind of put me in a bit of a slump. A pretty cover and an ugly cover. For my pretty cover, I chose a book that I bought purely because of the cover. I already owned a copy of that book, but I wanted this one as well because it was gorgeous. And that is this edition of A Game of Thrones by George R.R. Martin. It is cloth bound, it is beautiful. I really love illustrated covers, more so than ones that are like photographed. I think they're so much more beautiful and I appreciate them so much more, usually, most of the time. And it's not anything crazy or intricate, but it's gorgeous. And for the ugly cover, I went with Dare You To by Katie McGarry. The Australian covers of the Katie McGarry books are just kind of hideous. They're like really highly saturated, and I think they're not so appealing at all. It's not hot, you know, it's not hot, like, ew. A national book and an international book. I went with The Book Thief by Marcus Zusak. He is an Australian author. This is set in a different country though. This is set in Germany, but yeah, by an Aussie author. And I love it. I went with Ruby Red by Kerstin Gier, and now I don't have the book with me at the moment. I'm lending it out to a friend, but this was originally written in German and translated by, I'm not sure in the actual book it does say who it's translated by, but on the dust jacket it doesn't seem to. So I think it's like Anthea Bell or something like that, but yeah. For that one I pretty much could have gone with like any of the books on my shelves because I only own a few Australian books, but I thought it'd be interesting to pick one that was actually originally written in another language as well. A thin book and a thick book. Living Dead Girl by Elizabeth Scott is my thin book of choice. This is roughly 170 pages. I'm pretty sure this is one of my thinnest books on my shelf, and I loved this one so much. It's a really, really dark book as well. This just amazing. My thick one is Les Mis by Victor Hugo. This is a chunk of a book, probably one of my biggest books. I think it's like over 1,200 pages. It's just freaking massive. Massive. A fiction book and a non-fiction book. I decided to go with The Night Circus by Erin Morgenstern just because it is a beautiful book, so magical, so wonderful, and I think it is fabulous and absolutely gorgeous. Like, this hardcover is just absolutely amazing. For my non-fiction one, I decided to go with The Elements of Eloquence by Mark Forsythe. I've been corrected many times from my review of this one saying that I pronounced it wrong, so I'm sorry guys. I've heard it both ways, so I didn't know. But yeah, I went with this one. This is about like the English language and techniques and rhetorics and things like that. It was really, really interesting. I really enjoyed this one, and if you want to check out my review, I'll link it down below. A very and way too romantic book and an action-filled book. This one, apart from Twilight, there's not many that I found really too romantic, but there are some where I didn't like the romance, so I went with one of those, and that was Shiva by Maggie Stiefvater. I was a little disappointed with this book overall, though I'm not giving up on Maggie Stiefvater. I do own the Scorpio Raisins and the Raven Boys, but this one I'm just not a huge fan of, and just didn't do it for me. I chose Iona for my really action-packed one. Both of these books have a lot of action, but I just think this one's pretty epic in terms of the action. Like, there's a lot more gore and things like that, so yeah. A book that made you happy and one that made you sad. Wonder by Rj Palacio made me really happy, mainly because of the characters and how they progressed, and just the ending to Augie's beautiful story. It really warmed my heart, and I was like crying tears of joy pretty much in this book. So just this one, it's just gorgeous, and it made me really happy. Sometimes it was a little sad with the way that some people treated him, but overall I thought it was just a beautiful, beautiful story. The Bronze Horseman by Paulina Simons. This is how many times I cried roughly. There are some pretty intense moments, quite a bit of heartbreak, and just even from the very beginning, just because this is a World War II book and a love story, just there's so much going on, but it was worth it, in my opinion. It was worth the tears. So yes, that is all for this tag. I really hope you enjoyed it. I had a lot of fun doing this. I am not going to be tagging anyone in particular. I really need to prepare these things beforehand. I don't really think about who I'm going to tag before I do a tag video, but anyway, if you want to do it, feel free to do so. And if you have done this video, leave it down below because I'd love to check it out. I've been really enjoying watching this tag video. So yes, that is all that I have for you guys today, and I will see you next time. Bye!